All right. Well, welcome everyone. It's officially time, so we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. We are really excited to have everybody join us for a little bit of an unusual Tech Ambassador event. As any of you know who have attended other events of ours, we really tend to spend a lot of time talking about supportive technology, remote support, things like that. And tonight, we are going to focus on internet safety. We have heard from folks in some of the other meetings that we've been to, things that we've been invited to speak at. There were other people's events, and just casual interactions, how important the topic of internet safety is to folks. So we just thought it would be a neat idea to just have a special focus on that tonight. Okay, so this will be structured quite a bit differently from other types of Tech Ambassador events, if you have been to those. All right, I am going to go ahead and just share my PowerPoint here. Here's our agenda. So we've got this short welcome and then an intro. I'm gonna have to give a little Tech Ambassador commercial and just make sure everybody's aware of all the basics of our program. Going to spend just a minute going over what supportive technology is, even though that won't really be our topic tonight. That's central to the mission of our grant, so I feel like it's always important to at least cover those basics. We're going to give our Tech Ambassadors just a quick minute to introduce themselves all to you. We'll have a lot of them here, not every single one of them, but most of them are here, I think. And then we're going to dive into the topic of internet safety. We're going to cover some basics. I have a feeling that maybe we might go a little bit past 5:40. Some of our Tech Ambassadors are going to cover parts of this presentation with me. And then we're going to reserve whatever time we have left over for Q&A, where you can ask your live questions. I appreciate it. I think I've already seen somebody dropping a question to the Q&A, which is great. All right. So our little Tech Ambassador commercials, we get started. I do want to mention some of the events that we have coming up tonight. Of course, we've got the event that we're doing right now. This is a virtual meeting. And then we are going to have an in-person meeting up in Toledo. That's a week from today, but it will be a lunchtime meeting. We're going to do a lunch and learn where we'll provide lunch free for the folks that attend. Tech Ambassadors Renee Wood and Nathan Turner are going to be there in person. They're going to bring some of their technology with them. So you get to meet them in person and see examples of the technology that they use in their lives. Just hear them talk a little bit and get some free lunch. We are also going to do an in-person event in November 30th, down in Athens in Southeast Ohio. Same sort of idea. We're going to have a lunch and learn there, and Tech Ambassadors Tanner Huff and Chris Cooley are going to be there with their technology for you guys to get up close and personal with as you talk to them. Look for another virtual event coming in November. We haven't quite decided exactly what our topic is for that one, but we'll make an announcement pretty soon on that. And always, no matter when it is, you can go to the events calendar on our website. So that's at ohiotechambassadors.org/events to find out what's coming up and to register for those events. All right. So for anyone who may not know, in addition to the events that we do, there's some other ways that our Tech Ambassadors and our program can help out. And the key point here is we are here for you all. So as you saw just a minute ago, we're trying to schedule plenty of time for Q&A in each event. We do want to hear from you guys as attendees. We want to know what questions people have, what hesitations and reservations they may have. And just stay in touch with folks. We'd love to attend meetings outside of our own events. So this could be, like I said here, advocacy meetings, SSA staff meetings, conferences. We were just at Synergy. We got to go to the Tech Summit this year. Earlier today, we attended an ABSI staff meeting, which was a neat experience. But really, what we want to do more than anything else is to be able to meet with individuals and families and their teams who are considering technology as either a way to increase independence or as a way to help cover gaps in the workforce with direct care. All right, if you have any of those needs, or even if you think of something that's not in that list that you think we can help with, you can book an ambassador at our website. Whenever you've got those opportunities, you can go to ohiotechambassadors.org/request, or any page at our website has a big orange button on it that says book an ambassador. You click that, fill out a little bit of information for us, and we will try our best to schedule something with you and meet whatever that request is. All right, one thing that you may be able to help us with, I know we've got a lot of independent providers who signed up for this webinar this evening. So if you either are a DSP yourself, or you know someone who is passionate about technology and would like to join our team and be a tech ambassador, you can email us at info@techambassadors, ohiotechambassadors.org, and we'll let you know. We'll get you an application to fill out, and we'd love to interview you and maybe have you on our team. Okay, commercial's over. Real quick before we introduce our tech ambassadors and get on with the rest of the topic for today, we just want to make sure that we're covering what supportive tech is, again, because this is really central to the mission of our grant and our group. Okay, so we use the term supportive tech because it's used by the department in much of the literature they put out on their website. And according to DoDD, if you read their stuff, supportive technology is made up of two things. Those are assistive technology. So that's equipment, but really almost anything. Could be anything that assists a person with a developmental disability in the things that they're just doing in their everyday life. So that could be special adaptive devices that are made specifically for certain types of disabilities or certain people. I mentioned induction stoves and some other things here. It could be mainstream consumer devices, any of the Alexa or Google devices you might have in your home, Ring doorbells, lights that can automatically turn on and off, things that anyone might have in their home. But it doesn't have to be electronic or battery operated at all. I mentioned things like an adaptive fork or even something like a pillow. So whatever it is, it's considered assistive technology if it helps one of those folks in their everyday life. Okay, so that's half of it, assistive technology. And the other half is remote support. So remote support is service in many of the same ways that service can be delivered by a direct care professional, but it's service delivered over two-way audio or video primarily. So it's delivered by people who are trained and qualified in the same way as a DSP would be, but they are just talking to the person living in the home or staying in the home by themselves over two-way audio or video. Now, very often when support is delivered that way, it is accompanied by some assistive technology equipment. And the main purpose for most of that equipment in this situation is to make sure that the person has a safe environment to live in. And if there's anything that can potentially interfere with the safety of that person living in that home, that we're aware of it and we have a plan to counteract it and deal with it. Okay, so that could be cameras, sensors, security systems, thermostats, etc. All right. All right. Now, before I ask my poll question, we are going to pause and we are going to let our tech ambassadors just do a brief introduction of themselves. And I'll tell you what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stop my share for just a second while that happens. All right. And let me just call you out in the order that I see you here in Tech Ambassadors. And I want to start with Chris Cooley. Oh, you're muted there, Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Cooley. I'm from Portsmouth, Ohio. Some of you may know of Tioga County, Ohio. And I've been a tech ambassador for over 3 years now. I don't it's been a long time and I'm enjoying it. And that's a little bit about me. And I am an advocate for people with disability and service dog. I do have a service dog for the blind.
All right, great. Thank you, Chris. All right, next up in my view here is Renee Wood.
My name is Renee Wood. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, in Lucas County, and I am the chair of the Ohio Homestead Task Force. There are many other communities, and I've been a tech ambassador for a year now. Thank you for coming.
Excellent, thank you. All right, next up is Nathan Turner.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Nathan Turner. I'm from Lucas County in Ohio near Toledo. In addition to being a tech ambassador, I serve on the Lucas County Board of Developmental Disabilities and a myriad of other statewide organizations. Thank you all for coming.
All right, great, Nate. Next up, Marcy Strotter.
Hello, my name is Marcy Strotter. I'm a Central Ohio Tech Ambassador. I'm on Franklin County Board of DD. I was the first person, and I'm also a Project Star statewide trainer, and I'm on several other boards. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right. Let's see who's next on my list. It is Jen Schlegel.
Hey everybody, I'm Jen Schlegel. Please forgive any background noise. Accessibility transportation was not my friend today, and I'm coming to you from Ohio State University. In addition to hanging out with the tech ambassadors, I am a biomedical engineer who owns an assistive technology startup, and I have a mobility service dog in training who is currently taking a nap, but might make an appearance somewhere in this hour.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Jen. All right, next up on my list here is Tanner Huff.
Hi, I'm Tanner, and I'm the Lawrence County Tech Ambassador, and I am also on the Lawrence County Board of DD. I'm the first person in Lawrence County to be on the board of DD using a waiver, and that is also receiving a waiver and having a service dog in training.
All right. Thank you, Tanner. Let's see, I think I got everyone who's here right now. All right, good.
Brittany, you forgot me.
Oh, there you are, Brittany. That's terrible of me. Here, Brittany, introduce yourself.
I'm Brittany Joseph, and I am the only one not on camera. I do apologize. I am a mom. I'm the only tech ambassador, the newest tech ambassador, to be a family member of an individual with a disability. I have a son with autism, and so I bring the perspective of a mother and a family member to the group. So I welcome the questions later on in the presentation of all of the parents or family members that are joining us.
All right. Thank you. And again, I'm totally sorry about that. Now, did it's anyone else that I missed? Speak up if you're out there. All right. I'm going to share my PowerPoint again. And we are going to jump right into a poll question. Okay. Here we are. So I'm going to launch this poll question. And we have 4 options. The question here is, for which of the following activities would you or people you serve, if you're a provider, like to use the internet. So it can include things that you already do. Okay. So what things do you already do on the internet? What do you use it for? And you can have multiple answers here. Even if it's all 4, that's totally fine. So be thinking again of yourself, or if you're a provider, or if you have anyone in your care at all who is a person with a developmental disability that's not here. Try to think in from their perspective about what they might want to use the internet for as well. All right, we're getting some interesting answers. I'm going to give it just another few seconds here. Okay, I've got a couple more coming in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap that poll question up. And that is really interesting. So I'm going to share these results. So we said the most people said social interaction with people, probably social media, things like Facebook, whatever. Second was shopping. Third was meeting new people. And last was banking out of that list. It could be that there's some things that you do on the internet and they weren't on that list. But I just thought that would be a really interesting thing to kind of start out with in terms of this discussion we're about to have on internet safety. All right. So right into our topic here. So we're going to start out with a discussion of different types of scams on the internet and how to avoid them. We'll have some visuals. And again, while we're having this, please feel free to drop some questions in the Q&A if you have those. We're going to start out with what is phishing. So this may be a term that's familiar to you all. It's actually been around for quite a few years now, and I think it's one that may have made its way kind of into the general public's vocabulary. But phishing with a PH, it's a type of attack, social engineering, where an attacker sends a fraudulent message designed to trick a person into revealing sensitive information to the attacker. Okay, so way back before this became very prominent, people would try to use software, right? They would try to compromise your computer and steal information. They would try to hack into big companies and steal information. It's not that people don't do that anymore. But what I think is an interesting kind of social realization is that it's very, very successful for folks to actually just trick people into giving away their information. And in some cases, it's easier to trick them into doing that than it is to steal their information. Okay. So this type of attack has tripled since early 2020. That is just over 2 years. And it literally totals billions. I think I read a stat today, $5.8 billion in the year 2021 that was stolen from people as a result of this, of them giving away their own security information. Okay, so it's a super successful way for people to do that. And it comes in several forms. We're going to take just a minute to kind of go through here and talk about the forms that people could use to try to message people and trick them into giving away their information. All right. So email is probably the most common one. Okay. And unless Brad has joined us, I don't think that he's here, but what he did do is send me a recording of a story. And you know what? I may need to stop my share for just a second so that I can. I'm going to share this in a slightly different way so that I know that you should be able to hear this sound here, since this is a recorded message.
George, I think Brad did join us.
Okay. Well, he still wanted me to play this. So
One of my older brothers got caught in an email scam about 15 years ago.
Just real quick, can everyone hear that? Some of our panelists, were you able to hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm gonna keep it going then.
He received an email that appeared to be from PayPal, which is a popular online payment service, and it stated there was a problem with his account that needed his immediate attention and gave him a convenient link for him to click that took him to a page where he could log into his account. What he didn't know at the time was, that email was not actually from PayPal and the login page was just a look-alike page that was hosted on the scammer's server. Once he entered his PayPal's login credentials, the scammer had the credentials to get into his real PayPal account. With this information, the scammer was then able to access my brother's PayPal account where he had sensitive banking information and capabilities. Luckily, the scammer was located in a different country, so when they tried to access his account, PayPal thought he was suspicious that somebody was logging in from another country, put a lock on his account and notified my brother. My brother isn't a computer geek, but he definitely should have known better, but this goes to show that if a scammer presses the right buttons, at the right time, it might not matter how computer literate you
are, I think was the last. All right, and that's a great explanation of how phishing works in email messages. We're going to give you just a couple of examples here. So here's one that literally came into my organization just a couple of days ago. A couple of things I want to point out about this message. It says, hey, this person got a new voicemail message. And down here at the bottom, you can see it says to listen to the voicemail, click on the attachment in the email. Well, if you know anything about file extensions, this is an HTML file, which means it's basically just a web page. But one of the things about web pages is they can have all kinds of programming code in them that can, do all kinds of bad things. Another thing that you can see here, and I'll point this out a little bit later, if you look at the email address, it says rossdd.org connect. But if you look at the actual email address that it comes from, it's got nothing to do with that. And it ends in a JP, which is a Japanese email. Here's another one. This one also came to some folks in my company just a couple of days ago. So the tricky thing about this one is this is a real person. And people at my organization know this person. And this is her real email address if you look up here. Okay. And the link in the email where it says preview message is a real link, but it doesn't go to an RFQ or anything referred to by the email. It basically goes out and asks people for a username and a password, much like what Brad described.
George, real fast.
I tell you what, Tanner, we're not going to be able to stop. We've got so much content here. I really want to make sure that we keep on moving here.
Well, it was about that email.
Yeah. If we have time later, you can come back and maybe we'll revisit that.
Okay.
All right. So other forms that phishing happens in, besides email, it can come in text messages and social media. I'm guessing you guys have all probably gotten text messages. Now I'm going to let Jen tell a quick story that she made me aware of if she wants to hop in here.
Sure. George, is this my sister or my parents?
This is the sister here. I'll put that up. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So for context, my family calls me their tech support because they're not very tech savvy. My parents are old enough to be my grandparents, and they can be a little too trusting on the internet. But my sister regularly texts me probably at least once a week to ask me if a text that she's gotten, an email, various other things are legitimate. And this was one that really took me by surprise. So this is about 6 months ago. She sent me a message with this screenshot that she had gotten a text from, Department of Job and Family Services. Now, my sister doesn't have any connection to the department. However, she had recently had some identity problems with a credit card, so she thought that might be it. But the link that they sent her to this page. And she literally told me, she's like, yeah, I put in all my information, like my social security and everything else. But before I hit submit, I thought I should ask you because I feel like you might have an opinion. Well, here, this image in front of us is a very, very like scary good copy of the real Department of Job and Family Services website. However, the one thing, actually, there are two things that makes it stand apart from the real website. The fact that the real governmental website has a information disclaimer that you have to click I agree to open the website. And the fact that this webpage itself had a weird URL. So for example, this website that she sent me, that she was sent, was like, something, gov-.com. And governmental websites will always be .gov. My big disclaimer here, as I'm dealing with all of my family's various is for real messages, is that typically if you have a website that has a hyphen or a period in it, that is something other than like, okay, .com, .net, but like additional periods or hyphens, it probably is worth going to Google and searching for the website instead of clicking through a link that's questionable. When in doubt, when I'm uncomfortable with something where I'm like, I'm not sure if this is the real page, like if it's like my banking website, I'm just going to Google the bank and click on the direct link.
Yep. Very good. Great example. And that is a really, really tricky one. So I'll show you a couple of examples. This came from my phone. So this is an example of a text phish, right? Somebody is trying to convince me that I'm going to get paid $499 a day for 2 hours of work. And all I have to do is just tap that link. I'm sure that's totally above board, right? Here's another one that was sent in Facebook messengers. I'm sure that you guys have all seen things like this. And I'm very sure that this person was really just looking for a soulmate or a boyfriend, and that there's no other nefarious purpose for that. Kidding. All right. A couple of other terms that have to do with this topic that I think are important for us to just talk about briefly. Spear phishing. So the term itself is not as important as what it means. It basically is very, very targeted information. A lot of times it'll happen in an email, could be in a text as well. And I'll just tell a little story from about 6 years ago. An organization that I know, all the employees there got an email, and it purported to be from the executive director of that organization. And it was a very vague question. And it basically just said, hey, I need some help. We need to buy a gift for our board members. Can you help me? That was all it said. And then the name of the person. It didn't actually come from that person's email if they had checked, but people were trying to be helpful. One of the people replied, and they got another email back that said, okay, I need you to go to the store for me. Send me your phone number and I'll text you when you get to the store. So the person did it dutifully. They went to the store, sent their phone number over in the email, and then they got a text message when they were at the store to buy gift cards. Long story short, they spent $500 on gift cards and then sent the codes to this person over the text message. So hard way to learn what that scam was all about. Here's an example of one that would look kind of like what we were just talking about there. Okay. The key here is if you were to look at the email sender here where it says Mary CEO, hover your mouse over that, for example, on a computer, you would very often be able to tell it wasn't actually that person's email. All right, last one, catfishing. And you may have heard this term. This was made famous, I think, 10 years ago. If anyone is a football fan, there was a famous football player that played for Notre Dame. His name was Manti Te'o, and he got involved in a situation where he was in an online relationship with a person that he had never met before. And, you know, they were close enough where he called this person his girlfriend, and ended up, this person tried to kind of extort money from him. And it was a super embarrassing thing for him when that happened. I also know a person who just about 4 years ago got into a conversation with a person, again, thinking that this was a romantic relationship, someone he had never met, and ended up, this person wanted to meet him in person, came to his apartment, picked him up in a car, drove him 3 hours away, managed to get a hold of his phone, erase all of his contacts out of the phone, and then over a period of about 3 months, kind of basically kept him in her apartment, and he had no car, no way to go anywhere, and redirected his SSI checks so they came to her and she could cash them and steal his money. So that had a good ending. He did eventually escape that and was able to block her, but just really, really scary. Okay, so a couple of these things we'll talk about next came up just a minute ago. So Jen mentioned this specifically. It's worth it to talk for just a second about detecting risky or false domain names. Okay, so what you want to do anytime you see a web address, we'll call a URL, is look for that top level domain name, the .com, the .net, the .org in it. A lot of times people try to confuse you with a big long name that has a bunch of dots in it. So look for the last dot, and then a lot of times these addresses will also have a / and then something after it. We can always ignore that when looking for that top level domain name. Okay, and what we want to do is almost anything with 2 letters. Normally that's going to be a country code. You saw the one I mentioned a bit ago, .jp for Japan. Most of the time we're going to want to ignore anything unless we have a very, very specific situation where we know we're having a conversation with someone from another country. Okay, and but what do we do when there's a link and we can't really see what the domain name is? Right, I mentioned this a second ago. If you're on a computer, you should be able to hover your mouse over a link and the actual URL will pop up where you can evaluate it in the way we just said. If you're on your phone or a tablet, a lot of times you can just push that link rather than tapping it, just kind of push it and hold it. And you'll get a little screen that pops up and shows you the URL, and you can make your decision about whether you want to proceed. Most of the time we won't. Okay, so best practices for safety, and we're going to get to a couple of other little Tech Ambassador contributions here. First one is the topic of meeting people online safely. So we, in our poll, mentioned that, the third most popular answer for why people want to use the internet is to meet people online for the first time. Okay, Renee has a really interesting story. I'm going to let her chime in and tell on that.
So far we've talked about some very scary stuff on the internet, but I want to tell you something positive. 22 years ago, I met my husband online through a dating service. Of course, it worked out because it's 22 years now. 22 years ago, the internet was not what it is now. They had no pictures, they had no video chats. all they had was the ability to talk by texting each other online. So I had dated before, but never online. And so I was at a time in my life where I wanted to move on and take some more chances. So I put a dating profile up, and I want to talk a little bit about the safety. George, can you give me the ability to share my screen?
Let me see. Sharing. Believe you can do that. Do you not see the ability to do it, Renee?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
Let me find it. Okay, okay. Thank you. I got this online because it was quicker, but pretty much what I saw. When you're wanting to date online, you should use a different picture than the profile. I'm not saying use a fake picture, I'm saying use a different picture than you would on your Facebook or Instagram. Of course, if there's a profile out there that has no bio, nothing but a picture, it's probably a fake account. You really don't want to go with that. And of course, this doesn't matter if you're online or in person. Don't share information that is too personal until you really get to know the person. It's just easier that way. This funny, don't, if anybody says, oh, I need $5, you know, don't go there. If they need $5 before they really know you, you probably don't want to get to know them. Now listen, of course, me and my future husband had to eventually meet in person, and that was very scary for me because of my disability. So we had a phone call before we met, and I knew if he couldn't tolerate my speech impairment, he probably was not the right guy. And that was really scary for me because I thought, oh my God, it's gonna be all over with, you know. He's not gonna, even though I told him I had a disability, my speech might have caught him off. Um, when we went out on a blind date, I told my aunt, we went to the zoo, and I told my aunt, if I'm not back by 6 o'clock, call the cops. Here's the address, the phone number, and everything. Of course, he was a good guy, but I didn't know that at the time. And you can see the other two on here. But my point is that it's no different than meeting somebody where you work, where you recreate. It's all about knowing the chances that you're willing to take and being safe about it and not doing anything you're uncomfortable with. Thank you, George.
Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to go back over to my slides here for a moment. I just added a couple of little footnotes here that are more general in nature in terms of meeting people online. You know, Renee was on a dating site, correct, Renee?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a little bit different than social media. I always recommend to people that you don't accept social media friend requests from anybody that you don't know. That can be a danger. And then if you see suspicious activity, reporting that or blocking those users is also a really good way to stay safe. So great. All right, another topic, passwords. Okay. And I'm going to have Nate chime in here and just talk a little bit about two-factor authentication, also called multi-factor authentication.
Thanks, George. So I think one of the most important things people can do to maintain the safety of their passwords is to use multi-factor authentication whenever possible, especially if the account you have, might have some really personal information or your financial details. You want to make sure that there's an extra layer of protection in case your password is compromised. And to back up a little bit, so when you make a new account, they usually ask for your username or an email address and also a password. Hopefully that password is unique to that account, especially if it's going to have personal details or financial information, and you maybe change them regularly and they're complex. But you also have another option when creating an account, which is multi-factor authentication. And what that will do is after you sign in with your username or password, you'll be given a special code. Oftentimes it's delivered through a text message, which is the least secure, an email, which is more secure, or you might have an authenticator app or another token to get that multi-factor code, so that you have to have your password and that code to access that account. And I think it's particularly important for banking apps because I think they give a lot of us freedom to be able to do finances over apps sometimes, and some of us are comfortable with doing that, but we want to make sure that's as secure as possible. And especially for financial apps, the multi-factor authentication is really, really important. And you never want to give that code to someone you don't know. With my bank, they give me the multi-factor codes through their app on my phone. And sometimes if I call the bank, they'll ask me for that code through my app, and I give it to them, but I call the bank at their official number when I do that. There's no other circumstance where, if you're not calling someone that you know is legitimate, where you should give them that code.
Right. All right, that's great. And of course, if we get one of those messages we're not expecting, we know someone's trying to log into that account.
Yes, absolutely.
Refuse that. So, all right, perfect. Good password best practice. So here's another one: never share important passwords at all, or Wi-Fi keys. I kind of put those in the same category, even with people that you think you know. So one at a time here. I think we're going to give Marcy and Chris an opportunity to chime in here. Marcy, did you have a story about sharing a password or a Wi-Fi key? I can't remember which one yours was.
I can do this one, but mine was another one, but I can chime in this one. Like with your passwords, be very careful. Like be careful of your birthday because somebody might know your birthday. Don't don't use a name that somebody can really get. Like for like if you have Facebook or something, be which careful you like be which kind of different like what kind of password that you want to use because you don't want nobody to hack into your Facebook.
Right. Now, but what we're talking about is giving your password away to another person.
Oh, that one wasn't mine.
Oh, okay. Chris, chime in here. I know yours the Wi-Fi password, I think.
Mine was the Wi-Fi password.
Okay.
I will say, be careful. You know, we, a lot of times want to share our Wi-Fi password. We want to share our hotspots on our phone, and allow our neighbors to, connect with our Wi-Fi or hotspot. Most of the time, if you don't know them, I say don't share them. And even those that you do know, just be careful of who you share your Wi-Fi with and your hotspot with. I'll give an example. When I lived in Columbus, Ohio, I had some friends that I thought were my friends. I had my neighbors that I thought were pretty good neighbors. I didn't know them very well, but they needed to use my Wi-Fi. And um, those that came around and said they were my friends, were sneaking around where I live and taking advantage of the Wi-Fi and doing things that actually I woke up one morning with the FBI at my door, knocking at my door, wanting to know why my Wi-Fi is being used for different bad things, all kinds of bad things. And I didn't know. And so they, had gave me the lesson, just like we're doing right now, encouraging folks not to do that. If you don't know them for a very long time, then don't share your Wi-Fi or or your hotspot with others, because it could turn into a dangerous thing, and it could come back and basically get you in a lot of trouble and not meaning to. So
Yeah.
just be careful on that.
Okay, great. I've never had the FBI at my door before. So, all right. So last password best practice here I'll just mention. Use biometric authentication wherever possible. So this is like a fingerprint reader on your phone or on a computer. It could be a retina scan. Many phones have that, or face recognition. So this is really superior to a password in that it just has to be you. You don't have to remember a password or worry about writing things down or stuff like that. So where you can take advantage of that, that's actually the safest and most secure authentication method of all. A couple of miscellaneous ones here.
It doesn't work for everybody with cerebral palsy.
Correct. So I'm just saying where you can. And this, I think, goes without saying. We kind of mentioned this one earlier. Instead of clicking links in emails or texts or social media messages, if you think there's a chance it could be a legitimate thing, just open a web browser yourself and go to the website and log in. Right. I think Jen might have actually mentioned that earlier. If you think about it, relying on the link in the email it's a little bit of a lazy way to go. So just open up that web browser, use a bookmark or type it in, and just log in yourself. And a lot of times you can check and find out whether or not what that message that came to you said is actually true. And one more that I'll just kind of finish up with here. We didn't really talk about this, but this has happened to several people I know, and they have lost money. Never respond to any entity. And that could be somebody calling you, emailing you, or texting you, who tells you your computer's vulnerable or has been compromised, right? Especially if they tell you that they're from Microsoft or somebody like that, and they need to get into your computer and fix it for you. I'm guessing that we may have a few folks with a story like that one. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. And we have just a few little minutes. If anybody has questions for us on any of these topics. And feel free, you can either, oh, here we go. Got somebody raising their hand. So I'm going to promote you to become a panelist here, Ashley. And if you'd like, you can turn your camera on and ask your question live. Of course, you don't have to do that if you'd rather not.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I was at a restaurant, and so many restaurants right now don't have menus.
Right.
And they also have now where you can pay instead of standing in line. How safe is that?
I would say if you're following the instructions given right in the restaurant, that's pretty safe. There are apps like there's a whole product line called Toast that a lot of small restaurants use. That's actually really good. So I would be careful. A lot of the times they'll have a QR code at your table that you can scan to open up the menu or to go to the place that you paid. I've used many of those before.
Okay, I was just wondering. I've never used it, but I've been with friends who use it, and I didn't want them to like overpay for something because somebody's gotten a hold of their card.
Yeah. Great one. Thank you.
Yeah, they use banking encryption, so yeah, it's pretty safe. You just want to make sure that the QR code is actually legitimate and placed there by the restaurant and directing you to the right place. If you're not sure about where the QR code leads, you can look at the receipt they give you and it'll tell you.
All right. Perfect. Other questions? All right. I do not have any other in our Q&A. So I'm going to give Tanner a minute. If he mentioned that he had something that he wanted to point out about the email example that we brought up earlier.
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly if it was an email, but just I wanted to say about like the hacking portion, even like security companies can get hacked themselves, because my mom told me just here this week that the company she works with goes through a security company for their security on their computers, and she was one of the like, I think it was like 8 people from the company she works with that got hacked through the security company. The security company got hacked, and she was one of the people that that they targeted.
Wow, that's a scary one. Sometimes you think that the entities who are going to protect you are not vulnerable to that kind of thing. But it turns out that's not true.
And it was the people that hacked the security company were a country that has been in the news lately.
I bet we can guess who that is. All right,
Yeah.
Marcy, what did you have to share?
What I was saying before was about like hacking on social media on Facebook. I've had friends that have been hacked. I even had an aunt that got hacked. She was like, I don't know about what computer, somebody just hacked me. And one thing is, when some people that do get hacked, you got to make sure you put in a different password, and maybe even when you get done, a different picture. And then also, like with it, you be careful not to make a whole bunch of Facebook pages if you don't know how to, because it gets out there and people, it can be like it was a hacker or something, and they request you as a friend and it might not be you. So be careful how many Facebook pages you put on, because it can end up bad. Like I had a friend that had Facebook and she got hacked, and somebody used her picture and everything in her account, and she got hacked. So be very, very careful. And even on Instagram, if you don't want nobody to see your pictures, put it on private. Put Facebook on private if you don't have it. So yeah.
Yep, those are good suggestions. All right, we've got just another minute, maybe, if anyone else has a question. All right. I'll tell you what, we're gonna just wrap up this meeting. Like I said at the beginning, we really appreciate y'all coming out. We know this was a little bit of a different event for us as tech ambassadors, but we hope it's been useful and we hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much to all of our tech ambassadors who've joined us and participated. Thanks to our interpreters, as always, for doing a great job.
Hey George, can you ask everybody that was on the panel on the other side to go to our website and tell us what they think and how helpful this was? You know that.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. At our website, we have on all of the pages at ohiotechambassadors.org, there's a blue button that says feedback. You're welcome to go there. But Chris, I don't know if you know this, they're actually going to get asked for feedback on their way out of the webinar as well. So we hope that you will tell us how we did here, and please provide any suggestions either for this particular session, or if you have ideas for other sessions too. All righty. Thanks again so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you.